You ever had someone try to evict you from your own land like they own the deed to your soul? Because that's exactly what happened to me. Name's Quentin Nash. I live in a hand-built log cabin on the edge of what used to be my great-great-grandfather's farmland, just outside a small town in Tennessee. My family's been here since before the Civil War, literally. We've got the original land grant from 1847 framed inside the cabin. Real parchment seal still intact. Judge signed and all. Never thought I'd need it until she showed up. Her name's Cheryl Netherly. Mid-50s, blonde bob, screechy voice, and an attitude that could sour milk. Cheryl was the newly elected president of Willow Creek HOA, a development that just last year got built half a mile down the road. Ever since, they've been acting like they own everything they can see from their vinyl fences, calling it DAC. I was chopping firewood one morning when she pulled up in her shiny SUV, parked like she owned the dirt under my boots, and stepped out wearing wedge heels on a gravel driveway. Right then, I knew she was about to say something stupid. "You can't have this structure here," she said, pointing at my cabin like it was a rotting shed. "It's not compliant with Willow Creek's architectural standards." I lean on my axe. "You're standing on a Nash family land. This ain't Willow Creek." Cheryl sniffed. "Actually, our records show your parcel borders our HOA's jurisdiction. And with the new annexation lines approved by the board, your property falls under HOA regulation now." I laughed. Couldn't help it. "You're out of your mind." She pulled out a manila envelope and waved it like it was gospel. "You've got 30 days to vacate or we'll begin legal eviction proceedings." Eviction. I blinked. From my own land? Unregistered structure, non-compliant fencing, and no approved landscaping plan, she said, reading off her little list. "You're in violation of multiple HOA codes." I didn't say another word, just turned around and walked back into my cabin, letting her stew in the dust. I already knew what was coming. 3 days later, I got an official letter from the HOA's legal rep. It was just as ridiculous as Cheryl's visit, full of fake maps, doctored parcel lines, and citations for things like unauthorized log construction and historically incompatible exterior design. They might as well have fined me for breathing mountain air. But this is where it gets good. See, Cheryl and her HOA might have thought they were slick, but they didn't know who they were messing with. My great-great-grandfather was one of the original settlers in this area. When President Polk signed off on the Tennessee Homestead Land Act, he was one of the recipients of that land grant. Ironclad, never sold, never divided, still in our name. And I wasn't about to let some HOA queen try to steal it with a manila folder and a fake map. I grabbed the land grant, the real one, from its frame above the fireplace. Then I called a buddy of mine, Zachary Mullen, a local attorney who used to specialize in property law before he got tired of the grind, and opened a bait shop. He still knew his stuff, though. After one look at the land grant, he whistled. "They're trying to evict you from this." "Oh man, please let me take this case. I need a reason to wear a suit again." "Hope you still got one that fits," I said, handing him the HOA's fake documents. He grinned like a wolf. "Oh, I'm going to have fun with this." Zachary showed up at my cabin the next morning wearing a suit so wrinkled it looked like it had lost a fight with a leaf blower. He had a thermos of black coffee in one hand and a folder in the other, already full of printed documents I hadn't seen before. "First things first," he said, setting the folder down on my kitchen table. "We're going to the county recorder's office." I pulled the original land survey from the archives. "Your parcel hasn't changed since 1861, when it was last officially remeasured." That HOA's map? Completely fabricated. They drew their boundary right over your property line like they were playing SimCity. I poured him a cup of coffee from the percolator and nodded. "So, they just made it up?" "They filed it with the county clerk's office 2 weeks ago," he said. "Not through official channels, just dumped it in the records pile like it was some parking ticket. No legal review, no zoning hearings, no signatures from the Planning Commission. That's tampering with public records." I leaned back in my chair. "How deep are they into this?" Zachary flipped open the folder. "Deep enough. Cheryl filed a secondary document and annexation request that claimed your land had been voluntarily submitted to HOA authority last fall with a forged signature." I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. "She forged my name. Sloppy, too. he said, tapping the document. The dates written in her handwriting and the notary seal she used belongs to someone who hasn't held a license in 3 years. I grabbed my coat. We're going straight to the sheriff. He didn't argue. Sheriff Mendez was a no-nonsense type who'd been serving the county since before Cheryl probably knew what an HOA was. He raised one eyebrow when we laid the documents on his desk. You're telling me the HOA president forged a land transfer form and filed it with the clerk's office? He asked. Zachary nodded and attempted to evict a rightful landowner based on that forged document. Mendez picked up the paper with my fake signature and held it to the light. This kind of fraud? That's a felony. Multiple, actually. He called in Deputy Rourke to take our affidavit while he made a call to the county district attorney. I could already feel the pressure shifting. Cheryl wasn't just playing HOA dictator anymore. She'd crossed over into criminal territory. By that afternoon, Mendez had a warrant to seize the HOA's records. Apparently, Cheryl's annexation scheme wasn't just targeting me. She tried to rope in 3 other properties at the edge of the development. 2 of them had already sold under pressure from non-compliance fines that were completely made up. The third was an elderly widow who'd lived there since the 60s and never even knew she was supposedly in violation. Deputies arrived at the HOA office just after lunch, walked right past the receptionist, and served Cheryl the warrant while she was in a board meeting. According to the reports, she tried to say it was a misunderstanding. Sheriff Mendez had heard enough of those. I didn't go to watch it unfold. I stayed at the cabin and started gathering everything I had. Family land records, utility bills, tax assessments, anything that tied me to this land. Zachary told me we'd be filing a countersuit by the end of the week. The next morning, I found a notice nailed to my fence. Not from the HOA this time, but from Cheryl herself. Handwritten. It said I was inciting hostility and that she would take legal action for harassment. Pathetic. Zachary just laughed when I showed it to him. She's panicking, he said. She knows it's coming down on her. Then came the hearing. We met in the county courthouse, a red brick building that looked like it hadn't been touched since Truman was president. The judge was a silver-haired man named Harold Bixby, who'd seen every kind of dispute you could imagine in his 30 years on the bench. He didn't waste time. Let's see the original land grant, he said after we took our seats. I handed him the parchment, careful not to let the edges fray. He studied it for a moment, then looked over at Cheryl and her attorney. This document is older than every person in this courtroom, he said. And unless someone's prepared to argue that President Polk made a clerical error, I suggest we move on. Her attorney looked like he wanted to disappear into his tie. Zachary stood. Your Honor, we're also submitting evidence that the HOA president filed a fraudulent annexation request, forged Mr. Nash's signature, and tampered with public records to force an illegal eviction. Cheryl's lawyer tried to object, but Judge Bixby cut him off. I've already reviewed the sheriff's report and the DA's preliminary findings. This isn't just civil overreach. It's criminal fraud. Miss Netherly, you will respond to these charges in a separate proceeding. As for this hearing, there's nothing to argue. He turned back to me. Mr. Nash, your land is yours. It always has been. No HOA, no board, and no amount of paper shuffling can change that. Cheryl tried to speak. The judge held up a hand. Ma'am, I suggest you remain silent. Anything you say here will be used when the DA files formal charges. By the time we left the courthouse, word had already spread across town. You can't keep something like that under wraps in a place where everyone knows everyone's car by the sound of the engine. People I hadn't talked to in years were calling to ask if I was really suing the HOA. I wasn't. Not yet. But I was going after Cheryl. The sheriff's office confirmed she'd been funneling HOA dues into a private account labeled Outreach and Beautification, which was conveniently used to pay for her personal landscaping, her new patio, and even 3 weekends at a cabin resort 2 counties over. Embezzlement charges were coming fast. Zachary and I filed a formal petition with the county to have the Willow Creek HOA placed under temporary receivership. The court approved it within 48 hours. A neutral third party was brought in to audit their books, and the rest of the board members started resigning faster than rats from a sinking barge. One of them, a guy named Kent, came to my cabin unannounced. He looked pale and worn out. I didn't know, he said. She told us it was a legal expansion, that the properties were being offered a chance to join voluntarily. I didn't say anything, just waited. I voted for the annexation policy, he added. I thought it was a formality. You ever see my signature on that form? No, he admitted. I should have checked. He left without asking for forgiveness. I didn't offer any. The town council held a special meeting the following week and passed an ordinance requiring all HOA expansions to go through public zoning hearings with direct resident input. No more backroom land grabs, no more forged maps, and definitely no more Cheryl Netherly. The land's quiet now, just the sound of wind through the trees and the occasional hawk overhead. I stacked more firewood yesterday, made some repairs to the south fence. There's no more fake fines nailed to my gate. No more subs pulling up like I owe someone rent.